industry terminology. So if you are new to trucking, you are in for a state of shock. So I'm going to just tell you this. I started my trucking company 6 years ago, and half of these words on this slide, I had no idea what they meant, what it was for. I thought PO meant purchase order. I didn't know what a power only was. So as a dispatcher, it's key that you know these terms. The reason why is you call a broker, and if they say anything like DH, what the DH is 58 miles. And if you ask them what that means, they're going to know you're new and they're going to lowball you to death. They are going to try their best to get you to move their load for pennies. You want to make sure you're on top of your terms. Again, I have a list that I'm going to send you. All of these terms and more are listed there. Make sure you get familiar with them, especially BOL and POD. Those are bill of lading or proof of delivery. They are used interchangeably. Those are when your driver goes to pick up a delivery from the shipper is going to give them some paperwork. That paperwork has to accompany that load. When they go to deliver it to the receiver is going to sign off after taking the load, and that bill of lading or proof of delivery is going to be needed in order for your carrier to be paid. If they don't have that, they are going to make that run for nothing. So it is imperative that they get it signed, and they get it to you as their dispatcher so that they can get paid, so that you can in turn get paid as well. Another one that you want to watch out for is PO, power only. If you look up a load on the load board, and if it says PO, that means it's a power only. Power only is if they are only driving the tractor itself, no trailer is attached. That means that the broker XYZ wants you to pick up a trailer that's probably already preloaded or empty. They want you to pick it up from location A. They want you to take it to location B and either get it loaded or get it unloaded. And they will pay you to pick up their trailer and to haul it to the destination. Something else you need to be mindful of is TL, total load, and LTL. The two are totally different. Total load is a 53-footer or a 48-foot trailer. LTL is a cargo van, a box truck, or a sprinter. So if you see something posted for LTL and you're looking for a load for someone who has a tractor trailer, a 53-foot trailer, you cannot book that load for them. Okay. In trucking, some of us say driver, majority of us say carrier. So if they say carrier, just know that they are referring to the driver. Equipment is going to be another one. They're going to ask, hey, what type of equipment does your carrier have? And that's when you're going to say, oh, he's in a 26-foot box truck, or he's in a 53-foot reefer, or he's in a flatbed. You're going to need to know that. You need to know the difference between a shipper and a receiver. And a very important one, you need to know what a rate con or a load tender is. So Angela can attest to this. Load tender is an old term that people who have been in the trucking industry used before rate con became famous. Rate con is short for rate confirmation. And what happens is when you book a load with a broker, they're going to send you a rate confirmation. It's going to list all of the information that you discussed, the pickup, the delivery, the weight of the load, how many pallets are listed, and what your rate is. You need to make sure that that rate con is correct before you send it to your carrier. Make sure everything you discuss with that broker is listed. If it's wrong, you have to give them a call back and say, hey, this is wrong, and here's why. But make sure you become very familiar with the rate con. A lot of brokers refer to as rate con or load tender. All right, I will move to the next slide, which is broker credit checks. So you know how as individual, we all have credit scores. Brokers have the same thing. It's not based on their individual credit. It's based on their ability and their timely payments to their carriers. So you'll see the score ranges above. You do not, and this is my personal preference, you do not want to book a load with a broker who has a low credit score. The major reason why is because they may not pay your carrier, which means your carrier has wasted time, energy, and fuel on picking up that load, delivering that load, and then they're going to get screwed in the end and they won't get paid. So you want to make sure that you monitor the broker's credit through a third party. You want to go and search that broker. You can Google them online. You can go to the FMCSA website and you can put in the broker information. Make sure their broker license is still up to par, because all brokers have to have a license. You want to ask questions about that broker. Ask other dispatchers, ask carriers, hey, have you ever hauled anything for this particular broker? They'll tell you the honest, oh, no, I don't want to haul for them again. And here's why. Or they'll say, oh, no, they're a good broker. They paid me on time. Trust your instincts at all times. If you feel that a broker is giving you the runaround, they're lying to you, and what they're saying is not true at all, you want to follow your gut instincts and you want to say, you know what, no matter how much you're paying for that load, I'm going to pass on it. Another good way to check your broker's credit is to utilize factoring companies. If your carrier uses a factoring company, all factoring companies will run credit checks on brokers for you absolutely free. The reason why is because they're going to buy the invoices from the carrier and they need to make sure that they're going to get paid. So you can send them an email, you can give them a call, give them the broker name, they'll run it for you instantly and say, yeah, this person pays on time, their credit score is this number. So utilize those factoring companies. Also, the load boards, DAT, Total Quality, Truck Stop, Mothership, all of those different load boards will also provide you a credit score. I'm going to show you a load board in a little bit, and it'll show you the credit score for all of the brokers that are on there. Okay, so I'm going to let Angela go over rate negotiations and ancillaries, which is the best part of dispatching.
Okay, I'm old school. I call it accessorials. For the rate negotiation, these are the things that you need to take in consideration when you are talking to the broker. And we're going to go through a mock call for you all so you all can hear this. But one thing that you want to take in consideration is the number of miles that your driver is driving. Is he going to do actual miles, or is he going to do, are they giving you a rate on actual miles, or are they giving you a rate just from state line to state line? That plays a part in your rate negotiation. You may go ahead and calculate, okay, going from this address to from origin and destination by address, and you're coming up about 40 or 50 miles short. Therefore, the broker is only giving you a rate for state line to state line. They're not giving you a rate from origin to destination. So you need to make sure you take that in consideration, especially if they're going to try to lowball you. Next, number of stops. It could be a multi-stop. It may not be a one pick, one drop. It may be a one pick, 4 drops. You might want to, in your rate negotiation, you might be able to say, okay, well, if it's an additional stop, I'm going to charge an additional $50 all the way. And you go up incremental of $50 until they get to their final destination. This may talk to you. I know I have done this before to some of my drivers. Some brokers will state to you, hey, I don't get paid to drive the work, so I'm not going to give you additional money. I'll come back with the response and say, okay, well, how bad do you want me to move this load? You're going to pay me for my deadhead miles. And deadhead miles is the distance between where the driver dropped off at his last load to the origin of pickup for the next load. So if it's 100 miles of deadhead, that costs. That's gas money. So I'm going to need you to pay my driver for driving 100 miles, especially if you really want me to pick this load up. 99% of the time, they're going to give you a little extra something on it. It may not be $100, it may be $50, but you have to be aggressive when you're talking to the broker. Also take in consideration the time of pickup and delivery when you're negotiating your rate. When you want to deliver early in the morning so you can go ahead and pick up by 12 noon so that your driver can get on the road and start his day. So if the load is not picking up until the evening time, that's cutting into his hours of service. So you need to take that in consideration because you may have pre-planned your driver a week ahead of time or for the next load. So that cuts into the time of when your driver can pick up another load, or he may have to shut down. So that's cutting into his money as well. So you need to find all that out when you're talking to the dispatcher. Also, the weight of the load. You know how you have a car and you put wear and tear on your car? The heavier the load is, the more wear and tear you're going to put on that truck. So the heavier the load, you should be being paid a little bit extra money for that weight. And when I say a heavier load, a driver can probably scale between 40 to 42,000 pounds of weight for a shipment. A considerable nice light load for a 53-foot truck, trailer, between 15 to 25. Anything over that, you want to get paid a little additional money, because especially if he's going in the mountains, he's going to be pulling more fuel. So in addition, it's going to pop. It depends on the time of season it is. If it's hot, he may pop tires, the heavier the load is. So you just got to take all that information into consideration. And now, as far as the accessorials that you might also need to ask, I'll give you a perfect case in point. If you're pulling for Walmart, sometimes Walmart is overbooked in delivery. So the driver may arrive on time for his delivery, but Walmart may not be able to take the driver in at the specific time, and he has to lay over to the next day or for another appointment. You want to get that additional for your driver. Some companies state, okay, the layover is $250 for the layover. That's what you want. You want to be paid for everything that your driver does. Lumper fees. Lumper is a fee that you pay, or your driver has to pay, to get the freight off of the truck. You don't want your driver to come out of pocket for anything. So that's when you call the broker back and you say, okay, the driver has arrived and he has a lumper fee of possibly $200. So you go ahead and you get that for the driver to go ahead and pay to the lumper. Everybody in trucking, they get paid for every little small thing. Everything costs. TONU. A TONU is for a truck order not used. Let's say your driver arrives to the shipper and the shipper does not have the load ready for pickup, or they already have put it on another truck. Your driver's time is valuable. He should be compensated for arriving to pick up that load, and you're going to ask for a TONU. Detention. Detention, that's a real tricky one. Some brokers don't want to pay the driver for detention, and they do have. I'm going to answer your question in just a moment, Claudia. Give me one moment. For detention, if a driver arrives and he has a 2-hour window for them to start unloading him, if they have not backed him into a dock door and have not started unloading him, you can be compensated for every hour that your driver has not been unloaded after 2-hour wait time. Claudia, you're asking, what about a box truck? Is a lumper the same as driver assist? Now, if your driver is going to assist with offloading, sometimes the broker will compensate and sometimes they won't. It just depends on how you negotiated in the beginning of accepting that load. If you negotiated to pick up the load and at the end you did not say, okay, well, the driver is assisting. When you first got the load, like I said, you have to negotiate this information in the beginning of accepting the load. These are questions that you need to ask if the driver is required to offload the truck.
Can I add something to that about a box truck and lumper?
Mhm.
If for some reason the broker, sometimes they don't know that there's going to be a lumper on the end of the delivery, and your driver's there and the driver's like, well, I'll just help offload it. Call the broker, see if they'll pay you for driver assist. If they will not, let their lumper do it. The reason why is they will pay the lumper, but they won't pay your driver, especially in a box truck. Let the lumper do it. Let the broker pay the lumper and let your driver sit in the box truck until the truck or the trailer of the box truck is empty. I'm done.
Straps, blankets, and binders. This all needs to be negotiated at the time of when you are booking the load. You need to ask the question, is anything in addition required? As far as flatbeds, I know you are required to have possibly straps or tarps. It could be straps or tarps, and that is a fee. You want to make sure that you get your driver the most money. Blankets and binders, that is also something that these are items that secure the load and keep it from shifting while it's in transit. But you also want to be compensated for anything that your driver, in addition to just driving, he wants to be compensated for. And make sure you negotiate and ensure all procedures and accessorials and fees are in writing. If it is not in writing, it doesn't matter. You have to get everything in writing.
That is so true. Two things I want to touch on. Deadhead. Right now, the industry is 100 miles, which means that most people do not allow their trucks to deadhead more than 100 miles. For my company, ours is 50. However, for your carriers, you're going to need to ask them that. So make sure you take note of that, to ask them what is the maximum deadhead miles they are willing to do. And then whenever you're booking them a load, make sure you take that into consideration. The next thing is detention. Right now, the industry is paying anywhere from $30 to $90, per hour for detention. As Angela mentioned, after the 2-hour mark, detention starts, and it can range anywhere from $30 to $90. You want to make sure at that 2-hour mark that your driver is calling you or texting you to let you know that they are not empty or they have not been back to a dock door. That's when you contact that broker so that clock for detention can start. A lot of brokers will try to be slick, and this is nothing against brokers, but you have to be slicker than them. They will say, oh, well, you didn't call me at the 2-hour mark. I'm not going to be able to get my customer to pay. I always make a reminder on my cell phone when my driver gets there. If they get there at 11:11, at 1:11, I'm calling or texting them to say, hey, have you been backed up to a dock? If not, I'm calling the broker at that point so I can say, hey, detention starts now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I want my detention because my driver wants it.
Jermaine, you have a question in the chat asking, is detention and layover considered similar terms? They are kind of similar. Detention is, okay, he's going to start getting unloaded after 2 hours. Layover is if I have to spend the night. That's the way I can differentiate that for you, to keep it real simple. Detention, I'm starting to get unloaded after 2 hours. Layover, I'm sleeping there.
Yep. And they will not give you both at the same
Nope,
time.
they will not.
The other.
Exactly.
Always go for the one that's paying the most, though.
And sometimes some companies only pay a maximum of $250 for layover.
Correct.
And you could possibly find that information in the rate confirmation. So you have to read the fine print.
Correct.
Because it is hidden.
And Jeremy, in regards to layover and detention, sometimes it's going to be better to get the detention. When you look at the rate con, it'll probably say the layover is going to be $250. That's kind of like an industry standard right now. But detention could be, let's say, $60 an hour. And if your driver has been there a total of 8 hours, 2 of them are what we call free. The other 6, they're going to be paid $60 an hour. It'll outweigh the layover pay. So it's better to take the detention. So always calculate it before you call the broker, because they're going to always try to offer you whichever one is cheaper or pays the less.
Claudia has an additional question regarding the weight. Mm-hmm. This is in your specialty, Janice. What happens if the weight doesn't exceed the max of the box truck, but is significantly more than what is negotiated in the rate con?
If it doesn't,
this is a box truck. Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't exceed the weight that the box truck can carry, that's great. But if it's more than what they told you, call the broker and get more money. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you have a 26-foot box truck and the weight that they told you would be 7,000 pounds even. You get the load and it's 11,000 pounds. That's 4,000 pounds over. Let's say the rate is $500. You need to call and ask for more money. I would say, hey, this is 4,000 pounds over. For each 1,000 pounds over, I need at least $50, $75, $100. I always start high because I figure we can meet the middle at some point, but I start high because if you start low, sometimes you'll lowball yourself right out of some money. So to answer your question, you need to call them and negotiate more money.
And that goes as well, not just with box trucks, that goes with semi trucks as well. So if you are over, I'm going to say this, if you are overweight and the driver goes and he goes to the scale house, he has scale tickets to prove he is overweight. He has shifted his weight on all his axles and he has the receipts to show. You need to give that to the broker and say, my driver is coming back to the shipper because I am overweight. You need to cut the load, because if the driver goes through a scale house and he is over his maximum weight, he will be shut down. Yes. And you don't want that. That is a ticket to the driver. The broker may come back and say, well, he left. That's on him. Correct, LaWanda. That is a ticket. You do not want that to happen to your driver. So it's best that you have him go ahead and scale, especially if he has a heavy load, like a 38,000 pound load. You want to make sure he goes in with a full tank of gas, as well as you want him to go ahead and scale. If there's a scale on the property, on the premises, go ahead and have him scale. And before he leaves, within 50 miles of him getting loaded, he needs to go to a scale house, even if he has like 38,000 pounds, to make sure he's within the requirements, compliance.
Correct. That is correct. You definitely don't ever want your trucks to be overweight. They will be shut down, which means that will cut into your carrier's money and in turn into your money as well. And then it won't show you in a favorable light to the carrier. They'll say, well, you booked this load for me. Now you got me shut down. It'll be 100% your fault in their eyes, although it's not your fault that they put too much weight on the truck. I always tell my drivers, especially my tractor trailer drivers, if they give you the paperwork and it says 38,000, 40,000, or 42,000, if it's 42,000, it's going to be more than 42,000. It's going to probably be 44. You can refuse the load, or you need to go to the nearest scale and weigh it. And if you are at a warehouse that has a scale on the premises, have your driver go there and weigh it, because you do not want them to get shut down by DOT. Not only is it a shutdown and a violation against the carrier's driver's license, there's also fines, and then you lose points. And those points are key to being booked with other brokers.